We are back at it with the best sports show in the Big Apple, where we talk about the three hottest topics in New York sports. And this week, we're coming with an episode just a bit earlier than we normally do. And as always, with sports in the Big Apple, there's a lot to get into. And we're going to get into some things with somebody I've known for quite some time. And I finally got to get him on the show. He is the sports director at Fordham's radio station, WFUV, and the associate commissioner for the Skyline Conference. Also, fantastic play-by-play voice. My guy, Bobby C.
Dex,
Bobby, what's up,
good.
man?
Looking
How you doing?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be
You're
here.
looking good too, man.
I'm trying. You know, I have to keep up with your swag, so your style.
Hey, look, I just try. You try. You're doing more than trying. You're doing good. You're doing well there. It's good to see you. It's been a while. We were just chatting before we started. It's been a while, but we go way back.
Probably too far back.
Too
honestly.
far back.
Yeah, time flies pretty quickly.
Which is funny. You used to host a show on BronxNet, and you had me on your show years ago. I went back and looked at that videotape. We're not going to show that here. Bobby and I both looked a little different.
A little younger. A little younger.
You can tell we're the same, but glad to have you here because there's so much to get into this week. As always, every week in the Big Apple in terms of sports. And this week we got to talk about the Knicks. They've got some competition to re-sign a couple of their players. The Mets, they're getting healthier with some of their players back in the mix. But first, Bobby, we got to talk about some football. As New York teams, they had minicamp this week, and a major piece of the Jets offense didn't show up to minicamp. And guys, that person will be star quarterback Aaron Rodgers. On Tuesday, you saw this, Bobby. Head coach Robert Saleh said to the media that Rodgers had let the Jets know about his absence ahead of time, and he had, quote, an event that was important to him. Now, I know you saw this. Some people, some fans, some media members, they're not thrilled that Rodgers didn't show up to camp. Bobby C., I got to ask you this. Does it matter at all? Does it matter that Aaron Rodgers missed minicamp this week? Should we care?
Well, Dex, what's more important than winning the Super Bowl, right? 55 years for Jets fans. Aaron Rodgers is the guy. To me, he has to set the tone. He's 40 years old, coming off an injury. He'll only be the 7th quarterback in NFL history to take snaps after the age of 40. He'll be 41 this season. So even though I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, if I'm the Jets organization, if I'm Jets fans, I'm thinking to myself, it's been 55 years since we won the Super Bowl. What's more important than getting started off on that right foot? And to me, I think it probably sets a bad precedent for the team.
I do wonder how much that impacts the team in this going forward, because Rodgers had talked so much about the culture changing, and then some people are going to look at him as disingenuous or possibly hypocritical at all. Do you think anybody in the organization is mad at this? Is the follow-up here, or is it just, hey, man, this is part of the Aaron Rodgers experience?
Well, I think it's all about narrative, right? Like if they get off to a great start, it'll be all will be forgotten. But if they get off to a poor start, people will probably look back and say, well, he didn't get off on the right foot in training camp. And to me, if you're the Jets, you're thinking to yourself that Aaron Rodgers is the guy that you don't want the players on the team to necessarily look up at him in terms of his greatness as a future Hall of Famer. I think you want him to be the one that brings everyone together. And I don't know if you're going to be able to do that, even if you're away from the team. Now, I don't know how long that absence would be. But ultimately, if I'm the Jets, I'm saying to myself, you got to be here on day one so you can set the tone and we can actually change this culture and win a championship.
Yeah, and that's what the Jets are trying to do. And as everybody knows, this is year 2 of the Aaron Rodgers experience. Rodgers obviously misses all of last year after he tore his Achilles, just 4 offensive snaps into the season. There's been a lot of, and this is me probably putting it nice, Bobby, a lot of extra things that come with the Rodgers experience. Do you view 2024 as a put-up or shut-up year for the Jet signal caller here?
1,000%. I mean, to me, he is in that elite company of quarterbacks, again, that have tried to accomplish this feat. And I don't think it gets any easier, right? Like, he's already a guy that is an older player, even though I think he's taking very good care of himself, maybe less mileage, wear and tear. But ultimately, he's been tasked with doing something that no one has been able to do since Joe Namath. And even though the Jets have been close a few times, it's been a while. So I think the pressure there, as great as he is monumental. The expectation is incredible. I don't know how Aaron Rodgers could do anything better than maybe, like, he can't just be good. He has to be MVP Aaron Rodgers, great in order to bring this team to that level that they're trying to get to.
And when you talk about that, and you think he has to be that good, right? That MVP level, he's got to get to that. Before we move on to the next topic, I got to ask you, with him coming back off these injuries, and I think there are legitimate question marks
1,000%.
with him, right? How good do you think this Jets team can be in 2024? I know it's early, but I'm going to have you make a prediction. It's early. But how good do you think this Jets team
I think they could be great. I mean, the only thing they're missing is the quarterback, honestly. And they looked very good at times last year. The defense, of course, is exceptional. He's the guy that's going to bring it all together. That's why I'm saying he has to be dialed in from day one.
When you say great, how great are we talking? Are we talking Super Bowl great? Are you willing to go that far and say Super Bowl great with him?
I think if he gets started off, I mean, it's like being a boss at a new job, right? That first 90 days. Everything is about setting the tone, setting the culture, the climate. To me, if he's able to rally those guys around his greatness, absolutely. It's been a while since he's won a Super Bowl. And he's capable. He's a terrific quarterback. He hasn't had one of those seasons in a while, but it doesn't mean that there isn't one there. I mean, look what Tom Brady did when he went to Tampa.
Right, he did. You saw what he did there. All right, this is Bobby giving hope to the Jets fans after a down year last year. We'll see how the Aaron Rodgers experience is in year two. Moving over to baseball, we're going to do that now because the New York Mets, they got some of their key players back this week, Bobby. Catcher Francisco Alvarez and closer Edwin Diaz both come off the injured list this week. Now, Diaz pitched last night, looked pretty good, scoreless ninth inning, had a strikeout, and he resumed the closer's role upon returning, but we know about his struggles before on the IL. Do you think he earned it? Do you think he deserved to come back and have that closer's role with all the struggles that we saw from him before?
Well, like the manager said, they need Edwin Diaz to be Edwin Diaz. And that velocity seemed to be a tick up, looked really good. And the Mets are off to a good start in the month of June, and it's all about trying to change that narrative. And now you start to have some of these players, key players, starting to come back into the fold. And you could go from having a poor month in the month of May to having a really good month in the month of June. And you know how baseball is. It's a long season. If you're going to have a poor month, it's better to have it early in the season. So to me, Met fans are rejoicing right now because they've got their closer back. Hopefully he'll be able to be pitching the way he once was. And it's all about that velocity, that swagger, bring back some of that swagger to the Mets.
Yeah, I wonder how much of just his time off, right? And he was on the IL, but it was just him getting his mind right to say, and if his mind is right, and he could look like the Edwin Diaz of old, Mets fans are going to be pretty pumped about that. But here's what else they're going to be pumped about. That's Kodai Senga, because the Mets got some positive news this week. 2023 National League Rookie of the Year, Kodai Senga, he completed roughly a 30-pitch bullpen session on Wednesday, and manager Carlos Mendoza, who you just mentioned, called it, quote, a good sign. Senga says that he's confident that he's going to pitch in the majors this season. Do you think the Mets need him badly back in this rotation and healthy? How bad do the Mets need him, especially with their struggles of not getting length out of their starters so recently? How badly do the Mets need Senga back?
Absolutely. They need him. I mean, he's the ace, and that's a pitcher that can change things for this organization. We talk about reinforcements, bringing a positive energy. Anytime you can have someone take the mound every 5 days and maybe dominate, which I think he's capable of doing, that's a guy that could change the fortunes of the Mets because it's still early enough in the year to do so. And I could clearly see them potentially being a playoff team if all the pieces come together. But they need Senga, they need Diaz, and they need that swagger back that they've been missing so far this season.
I'm so intrigued to see if they can get it back, Bobby, because at the end of last month, which went terribly for the Mets, there was so much talk about, okay, time to blow it up, right? And, there, you know, even saw Steve Cohen say, pump the brakes on that. There's still some time here. When you look at this Mets team and how they started off June, I know it's early. Do you think they're turning this corner? Do you think that's realistic for them to do? And let's say we get to the All-Star break, they're around 500, they're still in the wild card chase. Do you think this is realistic for this Mets team?
Well, J.D. Martinez, 300 career-plus home runs, his first walk-off last night.
Yeah.
That's a guy that could bring some energy, excitement, maybe take some pressure off of players like Alonso and Lindor in the lineup. Then you add in the other pieces that were expected to be there. Again, the expectation with Diaz is that's a guy that's going to lock him up in the ninth, the hardest 3 outs to get. You add in Senga, who's, you know, the rotation's been pretty good, but that's a piece at the top of the rotation that could really change every series that you're playing in. The goal is, of course, to win, right? Maybe at least 2 out of 3 every time you're playing a series. And when you have your ace in the fold, that can change a lot of things.
Could change a lot of things. We'll see if the Mets can get healthier, get their ace back. That would be good for them moving forward, and see if they can stay in the playoff chase. Mets fans would like that for sure. All right, let's bounce over to some local hoops where the NBA Finals is close to wrapping up. The Knicks offseason is set to begin, and that's going to be a lot of talk about the Knicks this offseason. This week, we saw some reports saying there could be competition for New York center Isaiah Hartenstein, along with forward OG Anunoby, in terms of teams that would try to sign. You know this. There will be. The Oklahoma City Thunder. They're a team with major cap space, and they've been talked about that they can go after I-Hart. And Anunoby, he should be having interest for some teams that need a forward who can defend all over the court. Sixers, they've been mentioned as well, too. Are you concerned about the Knicks' ability to re-sign both players, especially with the limitations on what they can offer I-Hart, 4 years, $72 million, the max they can offer him? Are you concerned about this at all?
See, I think OG stays. Knicks will give him that 5-year max. I-Hart, if I was him, I would stay, and I would certainly prioritize giving him as much money as I possibly could. He's earned it. Clearly a big part of what they're doing there with their organization. But he'll be tempted, definitely. I could certainly see OKC stepping in and some of those other teams offering more money. But the Knicks have something going. They have something special going, and those players should recognize that, because it is so difficult to win an NBA championship. And as much as it is about the money for these individual players, I think it is about the chemistry and camaraderie that the orange and blue have created. They actually have the superstar that we've been saying that they've been searching for in Jalen Brunson, a player in his prime. But you get Julius Randle back, you re-sign OG, who clearly is the perfect fit for this team. Like, the minute that he stepped onto that floor, if it wasn't for injuries, that's a player that fits in with their system and their scheme. And to me, Hartenstein has shown that maybe he should be the guy instead of Mitchell Robinson at this point.
Yeah, that's something I'm going to talk about more and explore more as we get into this next offseason. I think that's a fair question to bring up in terms of I-Hart over Mitch, and it makes you wonder, do they move on from Mitch? Do they make him a little bit more expendable? Do they try to get depth in other areas? That's going to be interesting. You mentioned a word I've been talking about a lot when it comes to talking about the Knicks. I talk about this on my basketball show, New York Got Game. Fit. I know for some people, fit doesn't matter. I think it matters a ton in basketball and sports in general. There's debate, Bobby C., among the fan base as far as what should the Knicks do this offseason. Some fans, they want to see the team add an all-star. But it's possible that the organization might do a little bit about what you just talked about and say, hey, we were a game away from the Eastern Conference Finals, so we can keep this continuity going. So I'll ask you this. Should the Knicks, as an organization, should they be content with running it back next season? Is that the best move for this Knicks team going into the 2024-2025 NBA season?
Run it back. It's a great team. Like you said, they were so close. I think they would have given the Celtics, if their health was right, a run for their money. Clearly, Boston has shown already how terrific a team that is, on the brink of winning an NBA championship. And I think of all the teams that were left in the mix, had the Knicks gotten past the Pacers, that's a team that would have given the Celtics fits in the Eastern Conference Finals. So if I'm Nick Brass, if I'm Tibbs, I'm thinking to myself right now, I've got everything I need to succeed. I just have to add a little bit here and there, a couple tweaks, maybe through the draft, perhaps another role player that could really lift this team to another level. And then I would focus on making sure that I keep these guys healthy for the playoff run.
See, that's another thing I want to dive into. When you say that, I know what you mean in terms of keeping the guys healthy, and that might be going a little bit deeper into the bench during the regular season so guys aren't worn out come the playoffs. The fans that hear you say that, I agree with you completely, but the fans that hear you say that are going to say, oh, come on, Bobby C., come on, Dex. They've got to go add another star. They got to get an all-star. I'm not sure who that person is. What do you say to the people that say the Knicks need another star to pair with Jalen Brunson?
You are only as strong as your weakest link. And right now, the Knicks have this team together. It's not just about a collection of stars. Dex, we've seen it in other sports, right? You know, how many times have teams signed on to have all these amazing players, and it does not guarantee that that team is going to win a championship. It certainly could help their cause. But to me, the Knicks have the right chemistry brewing right now, and they just have to make sure that they bring in other pieces that can contribute to that culture. And, you know, again, I think the best part of what's going on for the Knicks now, like years past, they had some good teams when Melo was there, 50-win teams. but they had older teams. This is a team that, to me, is in its prime. You know, their best player is in his prime. They're ready to win right now. So what additional pieces can we add to this cast that's going to push us over the edge?
Yeah, I think that's the question, and we'll see how the Knicks offseason plays out. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm with you. Continuity, fit, think that matters. We'll see if the Knicks stay with that continuity this offseason. All right, Bobby, got to ask you this as a bonus question. When I had you here, you're currently the sports director at WFUV. Like yourself, I had a chance in my career, and what you do, and just to let people know, Bobby mentors and guides so many young people. I had the same opportunity to do that, helping people who wanted to pursue a career in sports broadcasting. I got to do that at St. Francis College in Brooklyn. And for me, and we were talking about this a little before we started recording, for me, as I told you, it was a very rewarding experience, one of the most rewarding experiences of my career. But I got to ask you, for you at Fordham, what has it been like for you, and what do you love as your role as the sports director of the radio station there at Fordham and all the sports broadcasting stuff that you guys do? What do you love about it? Is it as rewarding for you as my time was at St. Francis?
Well, it's so incredible to watch somebody develop. You know, they start out raw oftentimes and perhaps very talented, but you give them all of the tools that they need in their toolbox to succeed. And then when it finally clicks and they find themselves with jobs and a career, an everlasting career, as you know, what a blessing that is. And it's just been incredible to be there now for the last few years and to watch some of these amazing young students become the future of sportscasting.
Yeah, it's been good. And I know some of the students that you've mentored. Some of them have been here at this desk, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. And that mentorship is good. Do you feel excited and encouraged in doing the work that you do about the future of sports broadcasting?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I look back at some of the greats that have had my position. There's been only a select few, but somebody like Marty Glickman, who was really the voice of New York sports, the godfather of basketball play-by-play. And he was often considered like a true mensch, you know, because he was so good at helping others find their way, right? A Marv Albert, who in turn helped out even folks like Mike Breen, the voice of the NBA today. So for me, being able to continue that tradition at FUV, a place that's so rich, I mean, obviously Vince Scully, maybe the greatest broadcaster of all time, and to watch the development of some of those students, when you're planting those seeds and then watching it grow, and then they come back and they say, thank you for giving me a career that means so much to me. That's how I feel. I mean, yeah. I owe this business nothing. If anything, I owe the business everything.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. Game's been good to you. You got to give back to the game. And I've always lived by that mantra and helping out the young people. And I'm excited to see the young people that you've mentored and come here, or I'm able to connect with them. And then most of all for me, you know, I say this all the time, I'm really excited when I see my friends doing great stuff like Bobby C right here. We've known each other for such a long time. And I got to thank you, man. Thank you for coming up to the Rapid Rundown. I'm glad I got to have you here. It's been a while. We were trying to work it out around some scheduling of things, but we made it happen.
Anytime we could talk New York sports, it's great. And like I said, really proud of everything that you've accomplished. You know, I've watched you grow over the years, looking snazzy and doing some really great work.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. When that comes from your friends in the industry, people you've worked with and around for a long time, it means a lot. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Everybody, check out the work of Bobby C. He is the sports director at WFUV at Fordham, also associate commissioner of the Skyline Conference, and does some fantastic play-by-play work. Bobby, we got to get you back up here again. Anytime. That's got to happen, right?
We'll love it anytime.
All right, we will do it again soon. We will see everybody, not actually next week, because we'll be off next week for the Rapid Rundown, so we'll see you in 2 weeks. And unbelievably, we're coming up on a year since we've been doing this show. So stay tuned. We'll see you next time on the New York Sports Rapid Rundown.